Foreign Correspondent and a team of Gazan journalists will tonight deliver an intimate, heart-wrenching insight into the toll the war is taking on Gaza's children. Because independent reporter access to Gaza is banned by the Israeli Defense Forces, Stephanie March has been working with local journalists to film with families willing to share their day-to-day lives. Over months, they've documented life from different parts of Gaza for the story.
Almost every family in Gaza has been displaced at least once. Most now live in tents with no running water or electricity. For 8-year-old Suar and his 10-year-old brother Siraj, life here in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza is boring and uncomfortable.
حياة الخيمة صعبة. الرمل لما نيجي ننام والشوب لما نيجي ننام، الرمل والشوب بيختلط مع بعض وبيلبك في الجسم.
His 3-year-old sister is Sila, Dad Ahmed and Mum Halima. Before the war, their life in northern Gaza was good. Dad had a permit to work in Israel as a welder. They lived in a house and went to school. The Mohammeds came here early on in the war when the Israeli Defense Forces told civilians to move out of the north for their own safety. But now, nowhere is really safe. Last month, this strike destroyed about 100 tents in Deir al-Balah. The IDF says they were targeting Hamas weaponry.
بخاف ترمى علي قنابل، بخاف ترمى علي صواريخ، ترمى علي حاجة.
You heard the voice of reporter Stephanie March there, and she's with me in the studio. Hi there, Steph. So you've been following these families trying to survive in Gaza. Firstly, how did you go about making contact with them and keeping open those communication lines during a war?
Yeah, well, as we know, foreign journalists have been banned from entering Gaza to report independently for almost 2 years since the start of this war. So we have been working with a team of really courageous Gazan journalists. We know that Gazan journalists have been killed throughout the duration of this war, who've risked their lives every day to go out and capture the stories of these families that we meet. And initially it was actually really hard to find people to agree to film with us. We started in July when food was particularly scarce in Gaza, and a lot of families were saying to our colleagues on the ground, we just don't have the energy, we can't, we're spending too much time just trying to survive. We did end up finding some families, the one you just saw there, the Mohammed family, who've been living on a beach in central Gaza in a tent for nearly 2 years. And it's been really hard to stay in touch. Not only are our journalists living through the same trials and tribulations, communications have been hard, and pretty much everyone we meet in the film during our 10 weeks of filming have been displaced again.
Well, tell us how their lives have changed and where it's taken them.
Yeah, so the family we just saw there, the Mohammed family, there's 3 kids, there's 10-year-old Siraj, there's 8-year-old Suwa, and there's 3-year-old Sila. And they were living in the north when the war started, and they fled, and they've been living in this tent ever since. And it's just really harrowing. We just said, can we just watch you? Can we just see what you do? Can we just see, how do you get food? How do you get water? What's it like living under constant bombardment? You know, what's it like not having gone to school for 2 years? And I think that's something that I didn't realise has taken a huge toll on people there. Is 97% of Palestinians were literate before the war. They really take pride in education, but that's something that has been taken away from them throughout this war.
And what did you learn about how the war has changed them as individuals?
I think you hear from the parents and the kids. The thing that strikes me the most is they're just terrified. They just don't know if they're going to survive the night. They don't know if their siblings will. They don't know if their parents will. And I think you sort of just realise that, I don't know, the parents, a humanitarian worker said this to me, and then I've sort of seen it in all the interviews now as a filming we've done with different families, is parents in Gaza often have realised they can't keep their kids safe, and often kids have realised that their parents can't keep them safe. So just trying to live with that fear, not knowing what the future holds, is having a severe mental and emotional toll on these kids. I mean, UNICEF has said for the first time that this is the first time they've ever said an entire generation of kids is going to need mental health support in one place. And that can't even start yet while the war's going on.
And what do you hope to convey to viewers with this programme?
I think a lot of the news coverage we've seen, and rightly so, is about the really acute impacts of this war, you know, the people in hospitals, the aftermath of airstrikes. 18,000 kids have been killed in Gaza during this war. But our story is really about the 1 million kids who are trying to survive. It's showing that more, I suppose, relatable side of what it's like living through this war. And I think it's amazing to me how many points with the families we meet are just sort of really easy to relate to.